So one of the most amazing announcements that we heard today, which is a historic time for clean mobility in Europe, is Commission's plan to have emissions-free 100% emissions-free cars and vans no later than 2035. So this is great news for European consumers, for our industry, for our environment. Other goals, however, be it, for example, on shipping, where Europe will still allow fossil gas to be part of it, or on biofuels, for example, where unfortunately we'll continue burning rainforest, are not as good. So it's a mixed bag, good on road transport and not so good on some of the other transport sectors that we have to decarbonize.
So you mentioned the goal that no more petrol and diesel cars be sold from 2035, but do you think the world is really ready to completely adopt electric cars?
Well, absolutely. I mean, just look what's happening around. It's not just a European momentum, it's a global momentum. Regions and countries all the way from California to Canada to the UK to Singapore are all announcing similar phase-outs. And major car makers, including Volkswagen, including Jaguar Land Rover and Volvo, are all saying that they can ready to go there. And if we continue to ramp up electric cars on the current pace, they will be cheaper than petrol cars already in 6 years' time in Europe. So it's actually a better deal for our people in Europe, for our industries, than continuing with polluting engines.
But transport can only be as sustainable as the fuel it uses. It's important to transition to green energy too, isn't it?
Absolutely it is, and that's why today's plan also includes more ambitious targets around our energy supply so that we have more renewables. But we do have to remember that the power sector today is actually the cleanest fuel we have to power our vehicles already. In Europe, electric cars are 3 times better on their overall emissions than diesel or petrol cars. And in our power sector, more than half of our electricity is already green. So we're getting there. We don't have to wait. But we can do better, and we need to phase out coal as well, of course.
Let me go back to the affordability of electric cars, because meeting these goals require big changes by individuals, don't they? And it's going to be a struggle.
I think we have to understand and learn from history that the cars become cheaper when we move to the mass market, right? Henry Ford did this for petrol cars last century, moved to the conveyor belt. And now we're moving to mass production of batteries with gigafactories and platforms that all car makers are using. So this will all drive down the costs for electric vehicles. This is the role of policymakers. Push the industry to mass produce and commercialize the technology so it is affordable. Of course, we also have to do things such as charging, for example. And today, the Commission also unveiled binding mandates on all European countries to make sure that wherever you live or wherever you travel, there will be a charger next to you available.
So these measures apply to Europe, but how crucial is it that the rest of the world pulls its weight?
There is a global race to zero going on. There's a lot of movement on zero emissions in the US, for example, and actually until recently, China was the world's leader in electric vehicles. So it is not just Europe. It's a global race to zero emissions mobility for industry, for future jobs, as well as for the climate. So today, what the announcement means is that a huge global block of countries from very rich to less rich and even poor member states can do it. That means the world can do it as well, and it's a great signal ahead of global climate negotiations we'll have in November. And ultimately, Europe is also helping the rest of the world to democratize electric cars. If we can do them and make them cheaper in Europe, they will become cheaper for everyone else globally to be able to afford them as well.
Julia Poliscanova from Transport and Environment, thanks so much indeed for joining us.